Good morning. That's the sound of one hand clapping. So to talk about harmony, I had a lot of experience with the musical side of harmony in my life. At one time I had a salsa band, and I even went to Cuba to try to find the harmonious sounding, just the right sound. I went to the other side of the world to try to find a Cuban guitar. And in the end, I got one in London, and I had to make that from an Irish-Greek mixture. So a hybrid in the end. It had two strings, and two strings. And with a digital device, you could tune them perfectly G, perfectly C, perfectly C. So all 6 strings are perfect. When you played it, it just didn't sound right. It didn't sound like Cuban salsa music, which is often played on really old pianos that were left there after the Americans left, that were never tuned up again. So they've got a very pleasant, out of tune sound. So we actually found that me and the craftsman who made this, the mandolin maker, together we said, just detune it so it sounds out of tune, not perfect. And lo and behold, it just sounded exactly the right sound. So in a way, I'm trying to say something here, that this is a bit like the Buddha's middle way. Not too perfect, not too tight, not too loose. So the very important thing is about that music is that it's imperfectness. And it's the same with us. Every person is slightly imperfect in their own way. We're not robots. We're imperfectly perfect. And even one of my masters, I recall that he took me on a trip to the far north of Thailand, where there were thousands of monks there who were gathered in a kind of big monk convention. They had never seen a white monk, I don't think, in that area. So it was kind of a big thing. And the two of us flew up there and up into the far north there. And he was showing me around. In a way, we shared the same apartment. So I was quite surprised one day when I had to go to the bathroom, and I opened the door, and actually my master was there on the toilet, sitting on the toilet. But there was something strange. To my amazement, he was sitting the kind of wrong way round, facing the wall like it was a motorbike. So I don't think anyone had explained to him. He was raised in rural Thailand. The normal way, people say the perfect way, to sit on a Western toilet. This reminded me anyway of this famous story of the Kosambi monks who got into a huge quarrel that originally just started out about toilet flush in the bathroom. And the monk who knew all the rules, he was like the law master, the law student's master, master of masters on all the rules. In England, we have something as a kind of traffic warden. I don't think we have them here in the Philippines somehow. That wouldn't work because it's so chaotic. But big schism arrived because this traffic warden monk, the one who's like, who's breaking the rule? You're breaking a rule. You're breaking a rule. I'm going to punish you. You will have to confess. He was getting very heavy about the monk who taught the scriptures, the suttas, they're called. And the two of them got into a big head up because the one who was teaching all the rules and all his monks, who of course they took his side, were divided. So there was no harmony. Everyone was on one side or the other, and the argument went on for weeks as well. And so it was very, very, very disturbing for everyone. Nobody got any peace. And it was clear that the the monk of the rules was trying to humiliate the other one into submission and admitting he's wrong in front of everyone, and then he would be allowed back in. So there's these big whole things in there about being let in and being let out, and we're throwing you out, we're excommunicating you. All of those other what? Toilet flush. So needless to say, the Buddha came along, tried to calm things down, but even a Buddha, or even an all-enlightened Buddha, he couldn't do that. So he went off thinking it was all resolved, and then he got news. No, they're still at it. Even their students are all taking sides and in huge conflicts. So if it just shows you that people can know all the rules, be following them pedantically by every full stop, and still have missed the real meaning of the teachings by a huge amount. They're just missing the point completely. Then there's people who memorize all the suttas and every single line, and they can also be out as well. So the Buddha, after a time, had stepped in and said, look, please let go of your views, accept that you can be wrong and the other one can be, you can be flexible, you can just you don't have to take sides. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to get you down on your knees so you admit you're wrong, and I'm going to be shown to be the one who's in the right. We can all be like that. Everyone can be stubborn and self-righteous, but it won't make happiness. So sometimes we have to just give way like that. And so the Buddha explained this, and another monk had stood up and said, look, stay out of this. It's not your affair, really. We can sort it out. We're not children. We know how to do it. Afterwards, just like dead silence. Someone had spoken to the Buddha like that. Things have got really bad. So the Buddha took his bowl, took his robe over one shoulder, and he gently left quietly. He went down to Kosambi city and he received alms food from people, and then he went off onto a lovely, quiet, peaceful path off into the woods. And there were some monks staying there in a small little hostel there for monks. They welcomed him, made him a seat, made him a drink, and put his things nicely. And he asked them, how are you here? And they said, we live in harmony. We're very happy indeed. Thank you very much for asking. It's a great joy, and we're very grateful to be living in the Sangha. And he said, and what about the monks that you live with? How are they? And they were Anuruddha, Kimbila, and Nandiya, these three monks. And they said, we live like milk and water. We live calmly, serene, enjoying each other. We see each other as a blessing. It's really a lovely life. We're so happy. Big contrast to the Kosambi monks. And so the Buddha noted this, and he went off after a while. He noted these 6 ways that are there to achieve harmony, and it's a guidance for us that we should share space together. We should share essentials as well, happily, not greedily and selfishly trying to keep everything. We should observe similar and the same precepts in harmony together. We say similar. It's not always like, you have to do it my way and I have to do it your way. That's too harsh as well. We have to sort of blend along with each other and allow for personal differences. And then there is ways of using words of harmony, words that are gentle and are nice to hear and are full of empathy, full of understanding of that other person's needs and their moods and emotions and so on. We should share insights and understandings together regularly and talk about them. This is what I understood, like I noticed this about what, this morning after washing the rolls, I noticed this thing about, and share what we've understanding about life, and that also helps. We should respect one another. It's very, very important, and not allow this mood to come up that I'm right, you're wrong. You shouldn't be here. I should be here. I'm the one who's the most in all of this. That kind of arrogant, dominant, competitive, and jealous style of thinking, and self-righteous. So those monks said that they lived together like milk and water in perfect harmony. And the Buddha described those as those 6 rules: sharing space, sharing essentials, observing precepts in the same way, using words of harmony, sharing insights, and respect each other's differences, not be self-righteous. So there are these 6 ways. And there are other ways that we can also look at. We can, if we're working in our office, we can say thank you. We can notice little things. We can avoid gossip. We can keep an open door policy to others so they can come to see us. We can create a team atmosphere rather than a competitive, individualistic atmosphere. And we can always offer to help. So those are general guidelines. And there are other things as well, like meditating regularly. This is one of the really big ones, and learn to breathe smoothly. Breathe. One of my teachers says, like a snake across water. A water snake glides easily, curvily like this. Not like a galloping horse, he says. Which is also a nice analogy. We can remember to do that, mindful breathing, and also just taking time out. Just breathe and pause. Harmony is one of the big mysteries of life. Of course, it doesn't live alone. Even in music, we have rhythm, melody, and harmony is something that's close to my heart, but it cannot be separated from rhythm. We can talk about the music of life, and meditators in a way study the spaces in between experiences, in between thoughts, behind and beyond, and the space of our experience, rather than only developing this perfect thing, this perfect product. We often spend time just listening to distant sounds, absorbing and receiving all of the different experiences. These are called the 5 aggregates of experience. Those sounds are one aggregate, or part of one aggregate. The sights that we just see, the warmth of the body, the breathing of the body. So there are these experiences and feelings, and then there's perceptions, there's judgments and labeling things. There's those 6 different types of sensations, like scent, aroma, taste. There's a great dialogue between a king, a Greek king called King Milinda, and a monk that I really love. And during the time, the king asks, can you sort of pull out one of those experiences and just look at it very carefully? And the monk says, no. When you're looking at the 5 aggregates, they blend all together. You see the strongest one, but the other ones are also blended in. And he said, can you give me an illustration? And he said, well, yes, it's like a soup. And that soup has peppers and carrots, and it has oil and salt, and has lovely flavorings of, say, asparagus. And he said, you can't just take the pepper taste out and just taste that. No, it's blended in. And that's the same with this 5 aggregates, that they're always co-combined. But there's some way that something inserts a solid self, a solid reality in there, that it's me that's happening to. It's me that's smelling. That sound is happening at me, that dog barking, that distant car sound, that is happening to me. And then we get the reactions. So these are the ways that selfish perceptions start to distort. And from that leads to becoming out of harmony. So we can't really take the root out from that. So we can't take the rhythm out of music. We can't take the bass out of music, or a voice on its own, or the melody. You can't just take out only a melody. In a way, it has to belong together with others. And the Buddha was very poetic. He was very much someone who liked to create verse in his teachings. He also had one of his favorite close disciples called Vangisa, That was a monk who was able to make up spontaneous poetry to sum up the zeitgeist of the time, the moment, just then, the gestalt that was just happening. So there's a lot of artistry in the Dhamma. In a way, one of the famous ones, the Dhamma Pada, is a whole long song. Pada actually means a verse in one translation. It also means steps or path. So there's a lot basically made up of poems that are, someone's been described as a thread of flowers that's been strung together like jewelry. And jewelry and jewels are often used as a kind of metaphor for the virtues as well. Such things as that they would be the things that would beautify a lady, her sila, her morality, beautify her, or her dana, the way she gives, her generosity, her charity, they will make her blossom and be very beautiful. And that virtue, as well as mindfulness and calm and centered concentration and wisdom, in that sense, wisdom is a little bit heavy. We use that word for Paññā, which is not really meaning quite the same thing. Someone who has a perfectly clear mind and a purely natural mind, where all the particles of junk, in a way, have settled down and clarified. So we can carry that around. So wisdom is not in the same sense as knowledge, in the sense of lots of information. And some people who are very simple-minded, very calm, very clear, they're very ordinary. They're not a sort of PhD Buddhist or something. So that's why we shouldn't confuse knowledge with wisdom. And we shouldn't confuse wisdom with cleverness, that kind of very intelligent cleverness, which is what is meant by Paññā, which is more flowing and more subtle, I think. It's more graceful and more natural. And so some people just have a lovely energy and a lovely simplicity about them, but it goes together with a very organic morality, not a kind of judgmental or right and wrong mentality. So those are the things that beautify, and we talk about those as the 7 jewels in the Anguttara Nikaya. One thing I've learned about harmony is that you really can do harmony alone. You need other people. It's a team thing, effort, or it can be a duo, 2 people, or it can make harmony. Or unlike melody, which is usually a single line. Melody is a solo, prominent, and leadership thing, but harmony has various sorts as well. It can have fire, like when you have trumpets or a brass section. And they can be very powerful, and they can be very almost like drumming, with what we call sort of stabs of music, because they're so brilliant and they're so bright. They're so brassy. It's what we call the brass section. They're things, they have a power that is an unmistakable presence that cuts through. Some people have an unmistakable absence. Harmony is something like music, which is just flowing. It's also supporting. It's a kind of warm mush. You know when things are really working out, and everybody knows it's something. When you get in a family and everything is just flowing, everyone's together, like the family's going in a car, sort of going camping together. Dad's in a good mood. His work's going well. Mum's got the map. In the old days, the mum always had the map. It's not like today where you have the GPS. The kids are in the back doing a puzzle, So harmony is a thing like that. It's made up of many things. And you can't extract the other things out. We have to do our work. Like if it's whatever that work is, whether it's learning to write or a skill, we have to work with that, and all of those skills go together. Even if we go for a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, or to meet a high statecraft official, or a best friend, or an auntie, or an uncle, or a sibling, or go and tend to an animal to feed them, or you spend time with the trees in nature, or even if we're dealing with a local government or a local council, then harmony is there. We have to be very careful. If somebody breaks the law locally or invades or violates the rights of people, sometimes we have a role in harmony to step forward without fear and just speak about that. And that can be an international level that helps immediately restore harmony. And it sometimes just takes a bit of courage, and it almost takes a combination of meditation and intuition to do that. Wisdom, common sense, and lots of advice from people who know about that kind of thing. And usually then you have to be very careful. So law and justice have this capacity to restore when harmony is broken, and to restore that harmony within ourselves and also sometimes with the lives of others. There's a role in there where meditators and as meditators and Buddhists, we shouldn't be like cabbages, prepared to be sliced by strangers. That's too passive aggressive. We tend to go silent in ourselves when we're like that, to be passively aggressive. With active aggression, we tend to burst out with nastiness, and there's a middle way that's assertive, and sometimes vocal action needs to be taken to step forward. And wisdom is that which knows the difference between these things. Sometimes we don't need to speak out. We need to be restrained, and we need to be more knowledgeable about which is which. So harmony is important in every family. It's our first place of meeting of minds. And it takes great skill to maintain harmony. And also it takes skill to abandon disharmonious behavior, which is preventing us growing up to become healthy, happy people. And it will also then affect the other people in the group. And we're very much often in the family strong mirrors for each other, to know those strengths and weaknesses, and also the work that we have to do in our own personality and our duty to Dhamma to do that. If we fail to do that, then there's resonant disharmoniousness in amongst our parents and our siblings. So sometimes that also takes work to repair and to restore. So that's also a job that we have to do sometimes. Harmony is not something we have a choice about, and it's not that everyone wants to believe all the time. There's a way in which we are all connected, and there's a way in which we are all one, all under the same conditions. People who want to encourage us to be divided are there as well. This interconnectedness, which is, some would say, oceanic, some would say it's divine. And it is something where there's a unique quality of honor wherever you go in the planet. We are all a family. There's a very beautiful Tzu Chi video singing that we are all one family. It's very important to remember that we have our family as our siblings, our cousins, and our favorite ones, people who just recognize us straight away. But when you surrender to spiritual life, and maybe you go to orange robes and a shaved head, there's a quality of family of all your soul brothers and soul sisters wherever you go. You can go to a country that you've never been to before, and there'll be someone somewhere where you feel this strong affinity, and also you have this great hospitality, this great kindred spiritness, and this warm welcome. There's also harmony. This magic is very strong in many, both Buddhist and non-Buddhist countries. I've stayed in places like Israel and Egypt, for example, and felt that and met that. In so many places where there's a sort of mystery, a sort of mysterious quality about this. You could almost say there are angels moving amongst us that give this helpful, supportive, protective quality. And some strange things happen in life. There was an unusual one where I was in Tokyo. In Japan, for example, somebody played me a tape of a very beautiful Danish piece of music, Danish singer. And neither of us knew the meaning of the lyrics, but we loved the piece of music. And I was left house sitting at this house. And one day I decided to go out for a walk. And exactly at that time, the same piece of music was being played. And it was coming out of little speakers that were attached to the lampposts along the street, which was really strange because how can this happen? There's no rational reason. But actually there was a rational reason, it turned out. That there was a very popular TV series, and that's how he had heard it, and he had got tape of that music, and he was listening to it in his room, and they were also playing it over the national radio station, and that's how it happened to be coming out of the speakers on the lamppost. But actually, I was in England, and I went to a sort of holistic, movement group that happened on a Friday night. And I met a Danish guy just in one of the tea breaks, and I got chatting to him. I didn't know much about Denmark, but I said, oh, there is one thing. I know a Danish piece of music. It's called Fortrolighed, which means faithfulness. And the man told me, well, actually, that's by Anguttara Mitchelson. And Anguttara Mitchelson is my auntie. That's a true story. And so I was able to send great thanks to her via him in person. So when he went back to Denmark, he was going to give this gratitude from this person. And a strange thing happened when I was in the year 2000. I was working in lots of backstage areas in London, and I volunteered, or I asked to be working in the Millennium Dome. Not many people wanted to work there, but I did. And so I was just a very simple job. There was lots of lighting. There was a lighting department and lots of cardboard boxes. And we had these electronic buggies that had to be sort of taken from place to place. And I was working together with a guy called Jeff Blake. Now, I don't know if you've heard of a very famous British poet who's called William Blake. Yeah, and people all over the world, in China and Japan and America, know, oh, yeah, William Blake. Yes, we've heard about him. So William Blake, and this man was a descendant of William Blake. It was Jeff Blake. So, and he was a variously good company. I was very fond of him, and we had great fun. And now around that time, and he was from New Zealand, just by the by. Now I was somewhat obsessed with the music of Peter Gabriel. It was one of my meditations to learn more about Peter Gabriel's music. He's a very spiritual artist. And it turned out that Peter Gabriel had been commissioned for the Dome opening music, or the Queen was going to be there, the Queen Mother. And they had been working for weeks and weeks on the composition of the music for that Peter Gabriel had. And long story short, so I'd heard that music all day echoing around the inside of the Millennium Dome. And one day I decided when I went home, I've never looked at the website of the Millennium Dome where I'm going to work every day. So I went on the internet and I looked at it. And I went to the bit about the music of Peter Gabriel. And it turned out that he was creating a piece of music that was celebrating a transitioning family through the eras of time. And that the music was to be themed on that theme, plus the poetry of William Blake. And also about genes and chromosomes. Like, that was an incredible. And there I was working with an actual genetic descendant of William Blake. So it's very, very strange. It's like some angelic quality of life weaving this strange magic with you around where you go, and also giving you this great sense of security and strange purpose behind life as well. Harmony has this magic, doesn't it? It has this swirling, beautiful quality that is a great mystery. And it's that which suspends the music. And it's within this that has this unusual thing, which is very joyful, called harmony. And it's the exact opposite of bad disharmony, which is very different. So what we want to do is to promote and maintain harmony, and not to make it disharmony. Okay, so that's the Dhamma talk for today. I hope you've enjoyed this talk on harmony, and I wish you all well. I wish you all blessings. I wish you all to be free from difficulties and dangers, and also the disintegration of harmony. I wish you all sincere, kind, gentle, clear, and direct wishes, so that you avoid nonsense, you avoid harshness, you avoid slander and deceit, and you have a happy existence. Namo Buddhaya, and Namo Buddhaya.